Here's another example of a coaching progression, and let's revisit what a coaching progression is. A coaching progression is a series of questions and statements that keep the coaching conversation progressing. It's that simple. Very often, especially in this case with resistant people, we want to give them feedback and fix them. We want to tell someone with a negative attitude to cut it out or else, assuming they're going to be really positive tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Now, I bet you're laughing, right? Because it sounds ridiculous. But sometimes don't we do that? It doesn't mean we're bad people. It just means sometimes we just want to fix things. It's one less thing to deal with. So let's take a coaching progression with a resistant person. And we all have these, right? Now, a progression, again, is a series of steps that keep the conversation going. Now, this might seem a little bit backwards because we're going to use a tactic that is not going to allow them, at least in the first conversation, to actually respond. Let me explain. So again, a progression is a series of steps, a series of statements and questions that keep the conversation going. Remember, a coaching conversation is not one interaction. It's a series of conversations over time. Keep that in mind as we go through this strategy. So let's say we sit down with an employee named Tom. And Tom is very negative, really dismisses other people's ideas, and you've had countless conversations with Tom. Now, the reason I bring that up, you should never, ever, ever start a coaching conversation with the coaching progression and strategy I'm about to share. Here's why. If this is how you start a conversation, it will not go well. This is really a last-ditch effort or something that you do later in the relationship, and you're really trying to break up what's normally been occurring. So let's go back to Tom. He's negative, he's dismissive, he continuously puts down other people's ideas. And you've had conversations, and I'm sure you're going to think of somebody in your life right now, and they start interrupting you. I call them yeah, but Bob. Yeah, but, and they already told you why you're wrong before you get to the end of your second sentence. I bet you're laughing again. And we have those people, and what those are triggers. And their emotional triggers, and their reactions, their defensive measures. So when we're coaching someone who's resistant, and you've had countless efforts, try the following. Sit down and say, you know, Tom, I'd like to do something that's a little bit different. I'm going to create what I call a rule of engagement. I've given this conversation a lot of thought, and I want to give you the same opportunity. Instead of having a conversation and having you share your thoughts, I want you to just kind of digest what I'm saying. I'm not asking you to disagree. I'm not asking you to agree. But I want you to just simply embrace. And I want you to just think about your response and then just kind of digest it, but don't say a word. I just want you to assimilate it. That's step one. You provide the feedback and say, you know, Tom, when we're in staff meetings, when you're interacting with your teammates, we've had this conversation a number of times. You really are perceived as very arduous to deal with, at times very interruptive, and you can really put people in a position of not wanting to collaborate with you. Here's the what question. So Tom, what I want to ask you is, what are you willing to do to change? Number two, the self-actualized question. What are you going to do to successfully look in the mirror between now and the time you and I get together to truly embrace what I've said and take action on it? Step three. Now that I've asked you these questions, Tom, I want you to just digest it. I know this is a little uncomfortable. Let's get back together in a couple days and let's revisit this conversation. Here's the cool thing. So what you've done with the rule of engagement is you've broken the trigger that inhibits this person, this fictitious employee named Tom, from doing what? Having the conversation where they interrupt and don't truly become self-aware. The progression, you provide feedback, you draw that line in the sand. And the first question is a what question. What are you going to do? Number two, the self-actualized question, which is a what question plus a success imperative. What are you willing to do to successfully, and you fill in the blank. What that does is it frames their mind positively. They don't hug and kiss you. They don't have a revelation. I don't want to make this magical. And then you schedule time to reconvene. Time is one of your greatest allies with a resistant person. Because you know what? It gives them time to think, time to pick up the mirror, hopefully to look in the mirror. But you've also framed out the questions. So Tom, when we get back together, I want to hear from you. What are you willing to do? And what do you think you're going to do to successfully take action? I want answers to those questions. What that does, combined with time, is gets them thinking positively as you go forward. Let me know your thoughts.